So the Boris family, my family, began back in the Bronx, 1974, when I was born. Yeah, I'll start it when I was born. We'll get to some of the history too. But we left the Bronx almost immediately after I was born. One of the big reasons my parents, Norma and Pete, decided to leave was the Bronx was on fire. And they did not want to bring their child up in a neighborhood that was literally on fire. So they packed it up and we moved out to Long Island to have the suburban dream, right? And my dad was a very hardworking man. He worked for the telephone company. He was a lineman installing wires, and would commute on the train or sometimes drive in, depending on where he worked, which was very taxing. Anybody who's commuted, it was over an hour each way. Sometimes, God forbid you miss your train, you could be in the city all night. And it was very, very taxing. His work was not easy. A lot of the neighborhoods he worked in were tough neighborhoods. Sometimes people just chuck garbage off the roof, and more than once he got hit in the face with a bag of garbage. He saw some unspeakable things. And, it was wearing on him. He was also going to college. He was going to night school at the City University. And, that was also beating him up a little bit too. But these are things parents do to try to give their children a great life. And my mom was raising me, and then we had my sister shortly after we moved out there, Janine. And she was holding down the fort at home, long days by herself while my dad's out working, trying to earn some money. And things started getting a little tight, and my mom started trying to become a real estate agent. And as a way to try to make some more money. She was a secretary by training, but wanted to, try to hit it big with real estate, because the sky's the limit in that industry. Who knows, right? And they were going for it. We lived with my mother's mother, my grandma Ida, who was there to support and lend some child care, and also with my mother's interesting brother Eddie, who was harmless, let's just say not the most motivated of people. And it was a great life until one day my mom went out to work, and there was a knock on the door, and my grandma Ida goes to answer the door, and it was a police officer. And Grandma Ida starts screaming like you've never heard a person scream before. And my Uncle Eddie comes over to see what's going on, and he just starts screaming. And me and my sister are terrified. Why is everybody screaming? What the hell's going on? And all we heard was the word died. That somebody had died, but we didn't know who. And so me and my sister sat under the kitchen table, terrified, crying, and started trying to piece together, well, who died? Was it Mom? Was it Dad? I mean, those are the only two people we knew. And we just waited for somebody to come through the door. And after what seemed like an eternity, my mother returned. And it was a lot of relief there. I picked her. Yeah, I had a pick, and I picked Mom. And when she came home, I felt relief, but I was also disgusted with myself. Did I betray my father? And that was when, our lives got shattered. And my mother, from this point on, was going to have to pick up the pieces. And that's what these talks are going to be all about as we go through here. What happens when stuff like this happens? Because invariably stuff like this is going to happen. It could be a death in the family. It could be a disease you're dealing with. It could be loss of a job. It could be a divorce. It could be anything. How are you going to react? What is your response going to be to tragedy? Because that determines everything. And that is something you always control. How do you respond when the roof comes crashing in? How do you respond when the barbarians are at the gate? That's what you control. And my mother, as we'll see in later talks, is going to take control of this situation and is going to do everything in her power to try to raise two good, healthy kids. That's a talk for another time.